In our first video on numbers, we talked a lot about whether in academic writing you should write out numbers or leave them in numeric form. And in this video, we want to talk about some more advanced rules. So moving on from that particular question, we're going to have a look at some fairly nitty-gritty rules that cover quite a bit of territory in terms of how you represent numbers in writing. So we'll go through these rules by just having a look at some sentences. And we'll start here with starting a sentence with a number. If you start a sentence with a number, you want to write it out. So we'll write this out as 50. And if the number is too long to write out, then you would rearrange the syntax and move the number further into the sentence. The next rule is that with this expression o'clock, we typically want to write out the number. So we would not write 7 in numeric form, but we would write 7 as it is in the sentence. If we use a series of numbers, so that's the next thing here, if we use a series, there are some fairly specific rules that you can follow. So if the number is smaller than 100, then typically we write out each number fully. If the number is greater than 100, the rule of thumb, and this is not written in stone, but it's just a rule of thumb, is that you give at least the last 2 digits. Okay, so 2 digits of the last number is sort of the bare minimum. So in this case we have given 88 and the 1 here is implied. If you have a number such as, let's say, 104 to 05, you can see here again that we've given 2 digits, even though it might be tempting to just abbreviate to 5. So that just gives a bit more clarity and it looks a little cleaner and nicer. Often, of course, you need to give quite a few more numbers. So for instance, in this date here, we have 500 to 1450 AD, and we need to give the full second number. With some dates, it can be optional what you give. So for instance, in this example, it would be perfectly fine to give 1988 for the second number here, and write it out fully in numeric form this way. But shortening it to 88 is fine too, as long as it's clear. With very long numbers, you can use commas to split them up a little bit. So that's our next rule. And in this case, what you can see is that after every 3 digits, you can put a comma in just to provide a bit of clarity. Of course, you wouldn't do that for some things. So for dates and addresses and so on, you can't start sticking in commas. Speaking of dates here, dates are often given in this format. So you have month, and day, and year. And you can see here that we have commas surrounding some of this material. In other formats, you may see some other things as well. So for instance, if you use MLA formatting for your citations, often in MLA format, you would say 12 August and 1789. Okay, so slightly different order, but that's mostly just for your works cited page. The last thing has to do with Roman numerals. We'll scroll down a bit here just to create a bit more space. So in this case, we use Roman numerals for 4 different things, although some of these uses are no longer, in use. So the first one here is with prefaces. So with prefaces and initial pages. And what we mean by that is that in some prefaces, before the proper Arabic numbers start, we have Roman numerals, and we'll do a separate video just explaining how Roman numerals work. And so you can give these Roman numerals also when you talk about that preface. By initial pages, we mean those pages that come be at the very front of the text. Often they're not numbered. So for instance, the copyright page or the title page. And some people like to give or use Roman numerals to refer to those pages, especially if the actual pages start with the number 1. Second use of Roman numerals is with names. So if your name is Alfred Parsnip III, for instance, or if you're talking about historical figures such as Elizabeth I or II, then we can use Roman numerals. You can also use Roman numerals if you are creating an outline. So this is quite common. Let's say you have point 1, point 2, and these are the capital versions of Roman numerals. And then you can use letters from the alphabet to kind of add some further points to your outline. So those are 3 out of our 4 uses of Roman numerals. And the last one has to do with citing plays. So in the past, often people would give the act, scene, and line number, and they would do it with Roman numerals. But these days, it's usually just done with Arabic formatting. So you might say, for instance, Act 3, Scene 2, lines 4 through 12. And now it's normal just to do this, not with Roman numerals. So it used to be, 3, 2, and then you would have, sometimes in lower form, 4 through 12. And you can see that's kind of cumbersome, so we don't do that anymore. But if you really want to be old-fashioned, I suppose you can do that. That's it basically for the more advanced rules for numbers. Try do the exercise on the website to get better at formatting numbers, and hopefully you found this useful.